Greetings, dear students, and welcome to my channel. This is my very first video, so welcome. I am Maham, a senior medical student and an instructor. And for today's video, I have decided that we will be diving into Columna Vertebralis. And what I'm going to give you now will be an overview. Not just an overview, it will be a simplified overview, okay? And by the end of this video, I hope that you will feel more prepared to tackle the vertebral column. I'll be talking and teaching in Latin names because that's what I've learned, so you'll be learning that. Let's start. Columna vertebralis consists of different parts. I'll just draw a person. Okay, you cannot see, but that's the head and the nose and the body. This person is looking towards here, and we are therefore looking at this person from a lateral view. The columna vertebralis is curved. Our spine is actually curved. It's not like a straight line, so it has curves that goes inwards and outwards and inwards and outwards. So we'll be drawing the spine, and it looks basically like this. We'll be looking at the spine from an anterior view, so you're looking at the spine from this view, and it looks like this. Straight line, and it gets more wider the lower we go. Now you may be thinking, what on earth is this? But we'll take it simple. This is not an anatomically correct drawing, it's just a simple illustration. So this is the anterior view. If we were to look at it from a lateral view, then it would look, we would be able to see the curves. So it goes inwards, that's called lordosis, and then it goes outwards, kyphosis, and lordosis again, and kyphosis. So this inward is called lordosis, and this outwards. And how do I know which is inwards and outwards? This is anterior, so the nose is here of the person, and we are looking at it from a lateral perspective. This will be kyphosis. So lordosis, kyphosis, lordosis, kyphosis. And as you can see, we have the spine. It's divided into segments. We have the segment of the neck. So these are called cervicalis. Cervicalis means comes from cervix, neck. So this part of the spine is called the columna, column, and columna cervicalis, the cervical column. Okay? Sorry. And then we have the part of the spine that goes through our thorax, and that's called columna thoracalis. So, columna thoracalis. Then we have the lower back, and that's called columna lumbalis. Okay? So this is columna lumbalis. Okay? So we have columna cervicalis, columna thoracalis, and columna lumbalis. This is cervicalis, C for cervicalis, T thoracalis, and L for lumbalis. And here at the bottom we have os sacrum. So this part right here is called S for os sacrum. Sacrum is basically the sacral bone. Os means bone in Latin, so it's the sacral bone, os sacrum. And below the os sacrum, here we have os, a bone, coccygeus. Coccygeus. So the coccygeal bone, os coccygeus. This is basically what our spine consists of, these segments. We have columna cervicalis, thoracalis, lumbalis, os sacrum, and os coccygeus. In our columna cervicalis, we have 7 vertebrae. In columna thoracalis, we have 12. And in columna lumbalis, we have 5. If you're thinking that, oh my god, how am I supposed to remember that? That's so confusing. Then try to think of it like this. When you usually eat. So at 7 o'clock, we eat lunch. At 12 o'clock at noon, we have lunch. And then at 5 o'clock, dinner. So that's how I remember it. So 7 for the neck, 12 for the thorax, and 5 for the lower back. A sacrum also consists of 5 vertebrae, but it's like a fusion of these 5 vertebrae. And then we have this one big chunk of bone, os sacrum. Coccygeus is the tailbone. The most important part is that you remember cervicalis being 7, thoracalis being 12, and lumbalis being 5. Os sacrum, it's fused. So yeah. Now I'll just be drawing a few more structures. Okay, so now I've drawn the columna vertebralis. This is, well, it's illustrative, okay? It's not like exactly anatomical correct, but I just want to give you a simple way of seeing it. This is from an anterior view, and this is from a posterior view. So I'll just write it here. A and T for anterior, so it's from this perspective where you are looking at me, anterior. And posterior is behind you, so if I were to turn around, then that would be the angle you would see, the spine. So anterior and posterior. Okay, so the spine suddenly looks a bit creepy, right? And what are these projections here? And these are the things I want to talk about. So when you see a spine, you will see a lot of structures, and the most basic of it is you have the vertebra, the body of the vertebra, corpus vertebral, and then you have these from the anterior view. You would see these projections, like protrusions, bony protrusions that are protruding outwards. They are called processus in Latin. So protrusion, processus. And since these protrusion, you can see they are horizontal, and another way of horizontal is transverse. Thus, we call it the processus, the protrusion, transversus. So the protrusion that is, horizontal. Processus transversus. And all of these are processus transversus. I'll just show you. So all these protrusions that you can see, all of them, like this processus, this is how you abbreviate it, processus. I'll just write it for you in the whole. Processus transversus. Processus transversus. All these bony protrusions that are going, that are protruding sideways. And then if you look at the columna vertebralis here, we are not talking about os sacrum right now. I just want to focus on here, on these parts. If you look at the posterior part of it, you'll see again these bony protrusions from the sides, transversus, processus transversus. So these are also processus transversus. You guessed it, correct. Transversus. Dun dun dun. All of them. Now, you may think, okay, but what are these? And this is my way of drawing. It is a 3-dimensional structure, but I'm just drawing it in 2D. But these are also protrusions, so it's processus, and they are protruding posteriorly. So they're protruding towards the back, and that's also what you feel. When you can feel your spine, it's these processes. These protrusions, so spinal protrusions, processus spinosus. So these are called processus spinosus. Whew. So we have our processus transversus and our processus spinosus, and then we have this. You see these lines that are dividing our vertebra? They are called discus. These are discus, and they're called discus intervertebralis. So I'll just write the name for you here. Discus intervertebralis. It's all these blue lines. It's much easier to see our discus intervertebralis from the anterior view than the posterior. How would you remember it? For me, discus is like a disc, and as you can see, these lines, they are basically these discs between our vertebrae, and that's how it's also named. Inter in Latin means between. So the disc between what? The vertebrae. So vertebralis, discus intervertebralis, the discs that are between the vertebrae. Makes sense, right? Yeah. So imagine this would be our cervicalis. Cervicalis, and all these with the longest of these processus, they would be the thoracalis. And then the widest of the bones with smaller processus, they are the lumbalis. Yes, so that was the Columna Vertebralis. So thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful. Thank you. Bye.